I don't know who needs to hear this, but you gotta trick your own mind. Our mind is insanely addicted to dopamine and rewards. I've been in the gym for more than 7 years now, and one thing that always fascinates me is when it comes to group classes. Because what is the concept? Like, if you generally look at a lot of group classes, it's extremely broad. Like, it can of course not be personalized to each person, but that isn't necessarily always the concept. One thing they do really well in group classes is that you feel associated to something, people hold you accountable, and the other thing is that you feel like you're doing something really good for yourself. And both of these things is addicting to get more of. So one thing, for example, in a lot of places I've been to, is that they always end with some high intensity stuff when it comes to reps. And what that means is that you go out from that class feeling sweaty, but you also feel like you have done a lot of work. Whereas if you look at, for example, me or many other athletes, it's not necessarily that we are super sweaty after our workout. So of course that isn't associated to how much work you've been performing or how much results you're gonna get. But it is really reflecting how you feel. If you're sweating after your session, it feels like you've been doing something good. And that's the concept with group classes as well. When you feel like you're doing something really good, you want more of it. Whereas if you were to do a group class, it's purely statics. You go after, you haven't lost a single drop of sweat, and afterwards, let's give it 1 or 2 hours, it almost doesn't feel like you've been working out. That is basically how I feel after every session. It's not that rewarding. It doesn't really feel like you're doing a lot, even though you are. But this is the concept of tricking your mind. So sometimes you need to do things that feels rewarding. Not necessarily that it's always going to give you the most results, but it's going to mean that your brain gets addicted to what you're doing, and that in the long run is going to give you the results. So it's not always about having the perfect workout, it's about actually being in the gym. So I personally just always end with some weighted dips and reps because it feels like I'm doing something. When I'm just doing static holds, even if it gives me a lot of benefits in training, I just don't get the same fatigueness afterwards. So I like to end it with some reps, both mentally, and of course I do get some strength transferred from it, but it's almost more about just associating my training with something fun, tricking my mind to really want to do it again. And when you get onto that track, you're in for a good treat. That's when results are gonna start pouring in, and you're unconsciously just always getting better. Not every day taking the choice like, oh, do I feel like working out? It's like, it's addicting, so you want to work out. It's not even a question at that point. But you got to get to that stage, and that's where you need to sort of trick your mind. That is basically just says it all. So a great tip. And the plan for today's workout, if we just change the subject a bit, is planche. And my lower back is feeling so good right now. It's literally no pain when I wake up. It's all stretching movements. I feel nothing. So I'm really happy that it took 2 weeks roughly in overall, if you look at a time period, but it's still almost nothing compared to how long it could be. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm gonna continue with the rehab exercises, getting more flexibility and mobility in my shoulders. And then also now today I'm gonna add a bit harder variations. Still gonna use resistance band to give me some help so I can increase my my holding times or repetitions. But I'm gonna actually hold the full planche today with resistance band. So that is the plan. I will see you guys in the gym. All right, the warm-up is done, and the first thing on the schedule is gonna be the mobility part. So this is the exercise I did last time as well, having a weight as it's gonna push my mobility further than I can push with my muscles, and literally gonna hold this position for 2 minutes for the first set, and then single minutes for the 2 other ones. So 3 sets, but the first one is slightly longer, just really to get that full range. And one thing I did a bit wrong last time is I started to arching a bit to sort of cheat the system. It felt like I went deeper than I actually did. So now I'm gonna keep the PPT with the hips and also a bit more of a pronated body. Literally just thinking that I'm gonna push my hips forward usually stalls it. So let's start off. 2 minutes on the clock. It's a bit mentally heavy just to hold the position. You know, it's hard to do a planche hold or something, but it's also heavy. This is just like, it's not heavy, but it's still pretty hard to get the right connection, also to push your limit in it. And doing it for 2 minutes straight, it's literally a bit, it takes some effort. So it's not just sitting and resting. Now I will do 2 more rounds on this one, exactly the same, but 1 minute holds. I'm not gonna record it because it's super annoying to watch, but that's what I'm gonna do, and then we're gonna move on to the next mobility exercise. Next up is a drill I haven't shown before. It is a friend of mine, actually the guy that got me into calisthenics. He is a personal trainer, and he also had some mobility issues in the past with a handstand, and he did a lot of drills, so he showed me a few of his favorite. The last one as well is one of them, and the second one I'm gonna show now is one that he did a lot and it worked for him, so I'll give it a try for a few weeks and just see if it has any effect on me as well. Then sometimes it's also hard to know if this is the cause of my mobility performance or if the other exercises or whatever it may be, but as long as I get progress, I'm gonna stick with what I'm doing. It's a 2 kilogram weight, so nothing almost. Probably not gonna have the best form since it's not my perfection, but you wanna lean, try not to arch. Let's see. And then my point now is to retract, like front lever, and press the weight as high as possible. It's crazy hard. It may not look like it, but it's almost impossible. So retraction and keeping that one, that's the hardest part. One of those exercises you just don't know what the fuck you're even activating. Let's do the other side as well. Slightly less space here. I don't enjoy these things of drills. So frustrating, no weights, you don't know what you're using. Feels hard because you're always in positions where your body isn't comfortable in. But let's see, if it gives results, that's all that matters. Let's do 2 more sets on each arm, and then we're gonna move on to the actual training. I'm actually really excited now for the next exercise, and that is full planche push-ups with resistance band. It is a really thick band, way thicker than I usually used to train with, more towards like the deload part. But the point now is just to sort of get the muscle to mind connection, not really push it too hard, since it's the first time doing it in a long time. So let's see how I perform, and also really gonna feel the lower back. If I were to have any issues, I would step it down and do a easier progression. Not too bad. Definitely a lot of help, but that was good. 10 reps, let's do 2 more sets, and yeah, it's more towards the connection part, because now I have a few reps in reserve as well. Don't want to push too hard, and the lower back doesn't feel anything, which is perfect. I checked the form, and not the best one. I didn't activate the hips that much, so for this next set I'm not going to try to have my bum that high, which was clearly the mistake last time. So I activate the PPT. I think this is also one of these uncautious things now with the injury, that my body just prefers not to activate the lower back, because I'm still in that fear. Even though I don't have pain, I just don't want to do movements that involves the lower back. So let's get it from the start, get the PPT, lean into it, then enter the planche. At that point I know that I got the form right from the start. Let's give it a try, see if I can do what I say. Traction, PPT. Oh. Slightly heavier, but it felt good. I hope the form was pretty alright as well. That's it. And the last one was so much better. And that is literally a life hack. Just before you enter stuff, if you can have the right form before going into any skill, front lever is the same. See if you can have the right form. At that point you just know that that is checked before you even go in. Because one thing with the hips is that when I'm in the full planche, even if I have the possibility of adjusting, it's way harder because I'm concentrating on so many things during the hold. But when I'm leaning into it, I might just actually just focus on having my hips right from the beginning, and then when I go into position, it's just holding that same position with the hips. Then to adjust it into the right one, because knowing where all the muscles are during a hold is really hard. It takes some time. It's like when you're doing your handstand for the first time. You have no clue where your legs are. And then as you're getting better, you know where they are. But if you just do holds against the wall, you do repetitions, you start to understand like, okay, I don't know exactly where they are, but I know that they are in the right position because my body automatically goes into that spot. Same applies here. So always see if you can have the right form before starting the sets. Start to feel slightly fatigued now in the dynamic part, but damn, it's nice to be back. Next up, supinated full planche holds, and I'm using the same band as for the push-ups, so I'm expecting it to be relatively easy. I hope. Let's do 3 sets. Not insanely easy. Was a bit hard to be honest as well. But then again, I haven't done it in a while now, so probably not necessarily the muscle part, but more just not feeling the right connection. Most likely gonna get better with the second set. Let's see. I think the same problem occurred for this exercise as well, and it is the PPT, the connection. Even if I thought about it, it just wasn't enough. So my bum is a bit too high up, causing my shoulders to take all the pressure, making it harder to hold it longer. Because one thing is that the straight arm in supinated is so much harder than with a natural grip. So if you're not taking away some of that force into at least the core and the protraction part, you're gonna be struggling and entering more and more of a dead planche, just putting way too much on your shoulders, whereas your weakness is somewhere else. And if you just make that a bit better, the overall hold is going to be way more increased. So that's my problem right now, and I know that this is something I do wrong a lot of times when I do holds. It's just I don't activate it enough, making it harder. And since that's the weak spot, I think as soon as that one gets a bit stronger, everything is gonna be better, perform. Fix the weakest link. Let's get second set going. Slightly better, I think, at least with the hips. Still a bit harder with the protraction though, with that connection. But I hope the overall performance was better. I'm gonna think a bit more about the protraction as well for the last one, and maybe that's the ultimate set. It was actually way better than I expected, especially the protraction part. It was actually on point. Sometimes when I hold it, even if I just drop slightly, it feels like I'm losing it. But watching it, it looked pretty alright. And the hips, definitely way better. The straight body connection, the PPT, more activation, lower back, also allowed me to get an overall longer hold. It wasn't that my shoulders were giving up first, it was more of a overall just decrease in performance, which means that it's more symmetrically when it comes to where the load is being put. So let's do a third set, and pretty much the same holding time, not necessarily counting right now. I'm just stopping when I feel like I have a few more seconds. I could probably push it, but the form is gonna drop, so I might just quit. I think it's around like 8 to 10 seconds, somewhere around there. Probably slightly more. It's a pretty thick band, but then again, I'm not on my peak performance. Probably the worst one. Maybe it was because I missed the drop. I don't know. But overall, I'm really happy. Like, especially the push-ups, the holds as well. More solid than I expected. And the number one thing is that I felt no pain in the lower back. So already there, we have some success. Next up, we got the pronated raises. I got the 12 kilograms. I actually don't really remember what weight I left off with last time I did it. But either way, this is pretty solid. My goal now is not necessarily to push it that hard, just get back on track. So 12 kg, aiming for 10 reps, 3 sets. And preferably have a few reps in reserve. Probably like 2 or 3 reps in reserve, which is pretty alright. But it feels good just to push it a bit more. I really miss the workouts and not just having pain. Even though some exercises didn't feel pain, just knowing that the lower back was alright took away some of the joy in the training sessions. But now finally feel like the pain is away and I'm back on the track, which is really what I enjoy the most. Just training and progressing. That's part, and it's a journey. Let's do 2 more sets. Slightly heavier, but this time I didn't go full lockout because you're resting at the top. So just keeping tension throughout the whole movement, it's spot on. And for anyone new to the channel, the reason I'm even doing the pronated grip is because of the Maltese training. That's something I did before the lower back injury, and it is in this grip, which is really unusual. So therefore I'm using this exercise to just target shoulders a bit more and be in that position more often. And not necessarily just doing Maltese holds, because it kills you after a while. So that's the main idea. And in the past I did pronated grip, which is this part, super useful for strengthening straight arm strength, conditioning some joints as well, which is perfect. And also an exercise you can do after you've done your holds. So you don't always need to do holds to train the specific straight arm strength. You can do leans as well, or straight arm raises. Let's do one more set. Drained. Not a lot of reps in reserve there, let me tell you that. I also want to say, like, there are many benefits with recording. For me, of course, it's now I can share a lot of knowledge, but it's also for me to personally rewatch the videos, see what things I can fix. Like you see, almost every exercise I always adjust in between the sets, because there are things we can just tweak to make it better. And that's a life hack. And when I started, of course, now I know sort of where that right technique is, how it should look. But in the beginning I had a coach, I had people around me that helped me get an understanding of what it's all about. And that's really a life hack, to have people or a coach also that just tells you what to do in the beginning, because you don't know. And when you finally know at least what is the right thing to do, then you can start to train more on your own and at least knowing what you're working towards. But in the start, you save years. That's what you do. You invest money in a coach that's gonna give you so many years of experience in a way shorter amount of time. And that's what you're training. And at the end of the day, that's worth so much, because you get this head start before everyone else, and for yourself as well, to just quick start your progress and your journey. So it's really helpful. So I'm thankful that I had it in the start of my career, and also always been surrounded with people that did know more than I did back then. Now I'm more towards the degree I train a lot on my own, but then I also have a lot of knowledge, so I can rewatch and know actually what to adjust, which has helped a lot. So with that being said, find yourself cheat codes like coaches and people around you. Let's move on. Yeah, that was the first set. Let's move on to some weighted dips. I'm not gonna go ham with my 100 kg reps, but I'm gonna add probably like 40 kilograms at least. I think that's gonna be a good number. Keep it to not too many reps per set, but probably do a bit more sets at least. Get the volume, but not crazy load on the lower back. That's the plan. All right, 40 kg dips. I came to a conclusion that I want to do 10 reps, so having plenty of reps in reserve, and then also 4 sets, so one more than what I usually do. I think it's going to be a good split and pretty light. Now as well, it's not too much load on the lower back, which is the main thing. And just to recap, when it comes to form in the dips, is you want to have some slight protraction. If you're ever getting pain in the mid-chest, front shoulder, it's because you're opening up the chest in the bottom position. So keeping it locked, and as we're moving downwards, trying to get the bum just slightly out. Thinking that you should keep the center of mass in the same point. And that's pretty close to where the weight is gonna be. So it's gonna be activating the core on the way down, keeping chest, everything closed, pushing up, and only at the top part you're allowed to open up. In this case, you're gonna keep your body pretty close, locked in, low chance of injury. And preferably if you have the bars tilted inwards, this will help with actually getting the closed chest. If you're having bars the other way around, not the best. So don't train on bars that are tilted the other way or do it this way. It's not gonna be good. Parallels is fine, but outwards it's a no-go. might have been slightly more. And also you're gonna see a crazy technique is to have the weight stay at the same position. I'm not good enough to do that one, but getting pretty close to it. So the weight isn't moving the full range. Now this was super way light, so now the weight is getting the full range. But if I'm activating the core, the weight is not moving as much. So have that in mind. You can compensate by using the core and not only rely on the chest and triceps and shoulders. Let's do 10 more. Need to pull the step up a bit backwards. Hate when you get distracted. That feels good. Really light, but that's the point. Not too bad. Just one more set and then hyperextensions. That was it. Even though not even close to pushing it right now, it just feels so good to have at least some weights on the belt. And just as the other exercises, feel nothing in the lower back yet. No, I'm joking. I hope it's actually going to the better side now. And last one is going to be the hyperextensions, which is purely to strengthen that part. And then during front lever sessions, I will have the Bulgarian, I don't know if it was called that, Romanian deadlift. I think that's the one. For the lower back as well, strengthen that part. And I think just everything together is gonna sum up to give me more strength, and then pretty soon we can be back with normal training, multis, weighted stuff, full front lever, all those crazy things. But let's do hyperextensions. And the reason I do hyperextensions on the planche workout is because the gravity and the position is simulating the planche way more. And for the, let's just say deadlift, Romanian, there we have it. It is simulating the front lever more. It is way more of this, just pressing your body or your hips upwards, which is more same procedure in front lever. And this one is simulating the planche hold. If I do a hyperextensions, you just Photoshop away the bench and make my arms in this position. It's pretty much a planche. And that's why I have it today. So let's do 3 sets. That's gonna be enough. Also one of those, like, it's not super heavy, but it's heavy. It's hard to perform, even though the strain on the muscles isn't crazy, just you're in the position a lot. Also the force on the stomach allows you to have a hard time, or it's a hard time breathing. But it feels good, and targets the lower back, which is spot on what we want. mad. That's the only word I'm gonna explain it with. Such an easy exercise and still so hard to perform. Now I would prefer this one to be slightly higher up, struggling with the knees, but besides that, feels extremely good. Last one. Also now I try to have the edge slightly above the belly button. I didn't rewatch the last one, but let's see if I can get the PPT connection as well, so it's not just arching, but having some sort of simulating connection as well. So freaking hard. I would really like the bench to be higher as well. Pretty alright way to wrap it. But I'm gonna have a look at the form, just see how it looks, because I actually haven't judged my hyperextensions, which I should do. So check the footage and looks alright. Slightly arching, but then again the hyperextension isn't also the perfect setup for getting the PPT, but I do want to prioritize it as well. At least have it in there as much as possible. Then I'm not going to have the perfect straight line, since I'm pretty much going to failure all the time, and especially the last reps, not peak performance in form. But the lower back is getting really targeted, and at the end of the day, that's my main focus. So, pretty solid workout. And to sum it up, I'm just happy to be back with some normal exercises. Not only focusing on the mobility and not only doing like the basic variations of everything, but now to be in the positions again, back with the resistance band, even if I'm not even close to what I used to train with, it just feels really good to be in the position and be back. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming weeks, just see how my mobility improves, see if it affects my one-arm handstand as well, because at the end of the day, if you're mobile enough to be in the balance point easier, not only using pure strength to actually hold it, you can improve your holds a lot. And for me, it's just I've been so tired of like stretching, doing this mobility stuff. It's really boring. But I think this injury was just a drastic call for me to actually get my shit together and add some mobility in my workouts. So that's where we're at right now. Hopefully in a few weeks it's gonna show, and who knows, maybe I will continue with it as well. I might get a like love and hate relationship to it, but if it affects my training in a really good way, I'm gonna keep it. Because the golden rule is, as long as you get in progress, just keep doing what you're doing. And as soon as you're not getting progress, that's the only time you should start mixing up with the other stuff. But if you're having a winning concept, don't stop. Just squeeze that until it doesn't work anymore. But that's gonna be a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's session. It was a pretty length-wise, I think pretty standard. But I'm also starting to do now just one workout per video. I'm not combining it with two ones because they just become so freaking long. And I prefer getting all the value in today during my push. And then the next workout is gonna be a pull one, and I can focus a bit more on only the pull. And then you get still 2 videos per week. There's a lot of knowledge. Also you get to see my journey as well, but I think it's just a greater mix. And then on Fridays I try to always have another type of video, either enjoyment, a specific value one, or just something random that I think you guys are gonna enjoy. So hit like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Choo-choo!